Not yet. Oh, there you go.
Hi, everyone. We've just started, but as usual, I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to get in. So please bear with us and mute if you can. Welcome to the people that just joined. We are waiting for a couple of more, and we will kick off soon. So please be patient with us. Thank you for joining in the meantime. As usual with these sessions, please feel free to type questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A at the end, so there's time to talk about stuff, but in the meantime, feel free to put any questions into the chat. Welcome to the new people that have just joined. I've just mentioned we are giving it another minute or two just to make sure we've got a full room, but we do have a very good turnout, which I'm excited to see. So thanks for joining us today. I think, yeah, there are one or two more still coming in, but I think it
has actual description, so that's fine. I can
need to mute someone there. Please stay muted, guys. And again, thanks for joining. We are very excited to have another Bits and Bytes session, which is one of our regular lunchtime learning sessions. We try and keep them very informational, and we hope that you leave the session knowing a bit more about the topic, and definitely unlocking some sort of area of your brain that you're excited to learn more about. We do keep these sessions very short and sweet deliberately. We don't want to waste tons of your time. We like having them regularly. We want to keep it focused.
Yes.
Now, hopefully you guys will have gotten a voucher so that you can order a meal. So feel free to eat your lunch while the session carries on. That's the idea. We don't want to mess with your day. And be sure to RSVP to the other events. Obviously, we have these at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. And we've got plans for many more in the future. If there's any topic you would like to cover, please mail it through to us. We're always looking for new topics, and would love to have some new ideas on board for the future. So without further ado, we're here to talk again. We've had a couple of sessions on AI, but we're here to talk about AI again. So I apologize if it's getting boring, but I think this is going to be a good session. We're starting to really dive into what AI can actually do. We've talked about the theory, we've talked about what got us here, we've talked about the exciting new things that are changing this landscape. PPT Group is a company Turrito has partnered with that has quite a unique approach, and I think I've said this to Tony, who's joining us. He's going to be presenting. I think they were a bit ahead of their time. There's a lot of firms out there that are busy trying to figure out what to do with AI, and they've already been there, done that, seen the movie. Tony and PPT Group are specialists in the AI space, and they've already done some pretty exciting large-scale AI rollouts. So that's what they're going to talk to us today about, and they help you with that journey to actually using AI productively and in real world scenarios. It's not theory anymore. This is not a YouTube video. It's now the rubber's hitting the road. So without further ado, Tony, over to you. Will you do a quick intro to yourself and take it away? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Colin. So I'm Tony Silver. I'm the founder of PPT Group. I'm a career technologist. I've been CIO of quite a few businesses in my career, including Nando's and a few listed businesses. And in 2018, I really took the core R&D team that I'd worked with for a number of years, and I formed PPT Group. And really, PPT Group was a culmination of a career in the beginning being a story-eyed technologist, thinking that technology should just work, and people must just adopt technology, to really working on the subtleties of innovation, research development, change management, choosing the right technologies, understanding processes in their right detail, always considering the human being who's going to use the technology, to forming PPT. And really the journey since 2018 has been an incredible one. We've doubled the business every year since.
Wow.
And today more than 50% of our revenue comes from Europe. And for me, that's a validation of the quality of engineering capabilities inside South Africa, that I'm able to take a boutique consulting business and open offices in London, and count myself lucky to have FTSE 100 customers as customers. So that's a little bit about us. The kinds of skills that we employ are typical problem management or problem solving skills. So things like business analysts, strategists and architects, data scientists, process engineers, and increasingly artificial intelligence specialists. Part of our value proposition, and the reason that Turrito and PPT have a strong partnership, is, I feel very strongly that you cannot advise a client and supply a client objectively, and we position ourselves as technology agnostic, and that often means that we'll show up inside our clients and not introduce new technology. Look at the technology landscape inside our clients and choose the most appropriate technology inside our clients. So if the client is a Microsoft house, we'll almost always look at what's available in Azure without introducing a new vendor. Likewise Google, likewise Amazon. So, a question I'm quite often asked by clients is, why would a customer look at outsourcing innovation or partnering with a company like PPT on innovation? And quite simply, innovation is hard. And innovation is hard for various reasons. Firstly, customers or companies are inherently built with controls, and controls are necessary. Controls are there to make sure that things happen repeatably, that people behave responsibly. But what's true at the same time is that controls and innovation are counter forces. And quite often what truly innovative people don't do well in highly controlled environments, because they inherently ask the question, well, why do I have to do it that way if I can do it better? And this desire to do things better is at the heart of innovation, but it's quite often in conflict with the way companies are run. So, highly innovative people are often disagreeable, they're urgent, they're highly focused. And, those are quite often traits which aren't celebrated in organizations. The kinds of people who get promoted are team players, people who toe the party line, and, inherently those are not highly innovative people. The other reason innovation is hard is, the last time I managed a budget inside a organization where technology wasn't core to that organization, I had to motivate very strongly for every head inside my team. And there's no customer I have today that has the luxury to say, I want to hire 20 business analysts focused on AI just in case a use case emerges that's interesting. And really that's where companies like Turrito and PPT play very strongly. Innovation is chunky, and if we take the last innovations we had, maybe using the internet as an example, considering to go on the internet was chunky. You needed to invest in bandwidth coming into your organization. You need to invest in security. You needed to invest in controls, the policies around that, the behaviors around that. You needed to tool your infrastructure, making sure that you've got the right cabling and your PCs were capable. You needed to install browsers on machines. So this is the chunky part of innovation. And quite often, or almost always, to get through the chunky part of innovation, it's better to outsource because, it makes sense for Colin and I to have these expertise on our payroll because we go through that chunky phase with one customer, and then we take the learnings and the people from that project and we move to the next customer. And it becomes this virtuous cycle that we become better at this and our customers benefit from the institutional knowledge, the ability to execute quickly in a new technology, which seems quite scary. So, to Colin's point, we were very fortunate that we had some very forward-looking customers. So about 18 months ago, we embarked with our first generative AI projects. And we thought very deeply around how we can set a solid foundation to execute on AI. And, we came up with this process. And this process really talks to establishing a project framework. Projects, highly innovative projects like AI are not your typical project. Your typical project, you've got a scope, you're going into it with a budget and a scope and a desired outcome. The message I have to you is if you try and narrowly define what AI is going to do in your organization, you're almost certainly going to limit the opportunities because we don't know what we don't know. So, for me, establishing a project framework is important, and that really talks to fail and fail fast. If you see success, ship quickly and ship often on success. Things don't, very few things grow without light and without air. So, give solutions light and air, and they will find their natural path. And then set the expectation with business. Have the conversation early on with your executive team around, this is a speculative project. We do believe and trust that value will come. And the downside of not embarking on a new technology is that you lose a competitive advantage. But, my suggestion is ask for permission to fail and, set expectations around success. And, that really creates a framework in which people can operate in an innovative way. The other area for us, which is important, is not ignoring governance frameworks and regulatory frameworks, because the last thing that we want to ever do is build something, go down a tangent, and then internal audit or external audit comes in and says this is done irresponsibly. So it's a lot easier to build things from the ground up with responsibility, with privacy in mind, with regulation in mind, than to engineer things later on. The other area for me, and Turrito are excellent at this, is around education. I don't like to be the smartest person in any room, because then I'm likely in the wrong room. And including our customers, I might have depth in a narrow area, but I certainly don't understand your business the way you understand your business. And to create the soil for good innovation means that we need to understand your business, but at the same time, we need to demysticize technology. We need to take the mystery out of this. Einstein said if you cannot explain something to a child, you don't understand it well enough yourself. And, I've certainly not gone under the hood of a technology which I wouldn't feel confident explaining to almost anybody. So, for me, probably one of the first warning bells that go off when I'm speaking to somebody and they start using acronyms and jargon and they start overcomplicating something, immediately an alarm goes off that this person either doesn't understand something or the incentives are misaligned to mine. And I think nobody likes to be in that position where they don't feel fully empowered. The next step is, once you understand the technology, once we've got a sense of your business, the collaboration really starts happening. And, the mistake I often see made is that we get seduced by sexy technology and do technology for technology's sake. And, that's very hard to get buy-in. It's very hard to build a business case on that. It's very hard to get an organization rallied around something which is just technology. And it's the reason why, AI is a buzzword at the moment. And, Colin really encouraged me to talk about some tangible solutions that we seen the light of day, and they are there, and I will get into them. But, my suggestion to everybody is cultivate use cases and then match those use cases with technology. And AI is not going to be the solution for everything. From a first principles approach, quite often the simplest solution to a problem is the best solution to a problem. But there are problems where AI is absolutely the right technology for. I've worked for listed businesses, and the businesses I worked in, there was often competition for capital. And the way in my experience you get a voice at the table and you get allocation to company resources is by having a strong, compelling business case. So we work very closely with our clients around the use case, the value that use case will bring, and the rands and cents business case on why this investment should take place. And quite often those business cases are presented to excos or investment committees, and they stand head and shoulders against other business cases. Quite often, in organizations, there's competition. Should we open a new branch? Should we refurbish a branch? Should we import a new line of product? And technology, in my view, should be seen no differently. This is an allocation of company resources, and if we articulate the value proposition, we should have a voice at the table. And then lastly, and most importantly to us, is everything up until this point is important, but we as an organization, and Turrito as an organization, take satisfaction when our solutions see the light of day. And for me, that's where staff are using the solution or customers are using the solution. That for me is the measure of value. So, it's also, it's because of the volume of information around AI. I think, there are very few feeds that are open that doesn't talk about AI, but at the same time, it's easy to because there's so much information, it's easy to lose sight of the rate of progress. And I come from, built my career in the late 90s and early 2000s, and the laws that applied to technology then were things like Moore's law, where the number of transistors doubled every year. And I'm certainly built a career in bandwidth. We went from 26K to 56K to 128K connections, then up to 1 meg, 10 meg, and gigabit. And that happened, that what I've just described happened over a 20-year period. What we're seeing in AI is a 10 to 100x per year increase in AI models, in context windows, and decrease in cost. And the reason for that is this very fertile soil that's been created for this. So we've got massive amounts of information on the internet to train these models. We've got cloud computing. So we've got these massive data centers all over the world to power and host these models. And all of this has come together to create this 10 to 100x performance increase. And the conversations I'm having with my clients is the limitations we were looking at a year ago don't exist 6 months later. So really build with this mindset that things are what you're seeing today is the worst AI will ever be, and it's the most it will ever cost. And the likelihood is in a year's time, it's going to be 10 times better and 10 times less cost. And that's really the impetus that we're working on. Yeah, so, use case. So we have a London-based client that manufactures and distributes kitchens in the UK. They've got, they're the leader in that space. And, one of the challenges they had in their business was there's a skills shortage in the UK. And, skills like CAD designers or kitchen designers were commanding very high salaries, and this customer employs over 2,000 kitchen designers. So, the request from the business was, how do we give our kitchen designers superpowers? And is AI the solution there? And, we started a project with them called Project Mercury, and we went out into the market and we really looked at the process in designing a kitchen, broken down into capturing the space. And, we found that most phones have the ability through cameras and LiDAR or one of those two to capture a space within a few centimeters. Give the customer that space and then pair the designer with a generative design tool where the kitchen is then superimposed in that space. And what we did was we reduced the iterations that the customer went through, because they could very quickly see something which was good enough to give the designer feedback. Yes, you're going down the right track, you're not going down the right track. And by the time the designer did the final kitchen design, the alignment between the customer and the designer was 100%, and that final design was done once. A second use case was around, something that exists in almost all our customers, and that is a barrier between the person who needs the information and the person who has the information. And that barrier exists between people as well as systems. So, this was around making the back-end information available to a customer contextually. So we integrated into a customer's app a GPT. So this is powered by ChatGPT, but it is aligned to the customer data. And instead of the customer asking somebody at a depot for information that potentially somebody at the head office had. The customer would open their app, ask for information. The system would check SAP on the last order, make sure that it references the right product based on the right order, and the customer then could have interactions on that. So what are the specifications? What are the limitations? What are the installation instructions? Things like that. And, for me, this is the #1 use case that I see show up inside our customers, that there's a person who engages with another person, who engages with a system, who potentially engages with another person, who then engages with a system with information. And if we can connect that in natural language, that is a massive enabler that exists in almost all our businesses. The third use case was around, how can we have SOPs and policies show up inside organizations in a less traditional way? I've been involved with a lot of SharePoint projects, and in my experience, SharePoint projects seldom deliver the promised value. Central repository of all information, and the reason for that is that information is organic and it changes over time, and information is also voluminous, and the information is there, but you can't find it. And what natural language allows us to do is engage with information in the way we understand the information. So what we did is, in Teams, we built a chatbot with various channels. So one example would be an HR channel, and we linked that HR channel to all HR documents. So if my wife was having a baby and I needed to know how much paternity leave I was entitled to. Traditionally, I'd have to go to my employment contract or the leave policy. I'd have to open it. I'd have to find the clause or the sentence that spoke to leave, and I would have to then read it and try and decipher it in the language it was written. Now what I can do is open Teams, go to the HR channel and say, how much paternity leave am I entitled to? It'll then come back and give me the information in natural language. If I don't understand it, I can then ask follow-on questions. Can you give me that information in simpler language? Can you give me that information in my natural language? Today, Meta have released 100 languages on top of Llama 3. So there's no reason why the source information is in English, but the destination English information shouldn't be in the person's natural first speaking language. And we do that across functions. So we have an HR channel, we have a finance channel, we have different channels inside the organization. So if you want to know how to do expense claims, if you want to understand, what my fuel policy is, what I can claim for on tax, all of that is now done through a single pane of glass, being Teams. This isn't one of our use cases, but it's a compelling use case from a financial services business based in the EU called Klarna. They're buy now, pay later business, and they built out a customer service agent using GPT-4. And in the first year they built this out, it did 2.3 million conversations, which is the equivalent of 700 agents. The queries dropped from 11 minutes to 2 minutes. And, that for me, there's something in that, because the average is 2 minutes, which means that probably the people on this call would probably do that query in 20 or 30 seconds, because we can type quickly. Where traditionally we go down an analog line and it has to ring, somebody has to answer, you have to push the right number, and 2 minutes later you're speaking to somebody. In a world in which I can do this in 20 or 30 seconds, and my mother, who's probably an outlier on the other end, can do 2 or 3 minutes, but we're both doing this at the pace that we're comfortable with, is a real defining factor. This was pre the new languages that have come out, but it's 35 language, 24/7. And in the first year this was rolled out, Klarna saved R1 billion, which is $40 million. So, when we start talking about use cases and technology showing up, there's no business that wouldn't value R1 billion back onto their bottom line. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tony. That was brilliant. I loved the lead up to it, and the practical examples were brilliant. Q&A time. We do have one or two that you guys emailed through before this event, but does anyone want to put a question in the chat now or ask? While we're waiting for that, I'll tell a quick story. Another use case, I went to a Microsoft AI event, and some of you may have heard this if you went to our physical event, but the chief operating officer of FNB was there, who was a very charismatic lady, and she was an early adopter of Copilot, and they've been using it in their credit team. As you guys know, when you apply for any sort of facility with a bank, you deal with the banker, but then behind the banker is a credit team that you never get to interact with. And they send all the paperwork, your income statement, your balance sheet to that team. They then say yes or no. That's the way it's worked in the past. The COO of FNB has been using Copilot and since it was released. In fact, I think they were beta testers, and first put it on each credit person's desk so that they could process the various PDFs from users, and that saved an enormous amount of time, more than they were considering. But then she said they hadn't thought about it. Someone at one of their meetings, one of their sort of weekly chats, said, why are we still doing this on a per human basis? Why don't we just upload all of the PDFs and spit out an answer? And they did it, and it worked in the same amount of time. So and she made a joke at the event, and she said, I could have just fired everyone. Like, some of the credit guys really annoy me. I could have just fired them, but I didn't. What they do now, and the other banks are probably rushing to catch up, is their credit team now has tons and tons of time to analyze why a customer is getting rejected. And then they're putting forward to the bankers, listen, this facility is not feasible, but how about this one? So they're doing some cross-selling and upselling. So the team has stayed exactly the same size, but there's a hell of a lot of value that's being added, and the cross-selling and upselling that the F&B credit team is now able to do is monumental. They previously they were just saying yes or no. Tony wants to buy a motorcycle, yes or no. Now they're saying he can't buy that one, but he could do this, he could do this, and if he improves his credit score, sorry to use you as an example, Tony, he can get that motorcycle, which is incredibly valuable. So also real world example, and some genuine value being generated.
I think, Colin, our experience on that is that, that systems are good at repetitive, accurate tasks, and humans are really good at problem solving and applying empathy to situations. And the conversation I'm having is use people where people thrive, and remove the mind-numbing, soul-destroying jobs of filtering through information, trying to build these mental models of information, and use systems for where those are good.
So, and we are a little bit short on time, so I am cognizant of that, everyone, and as usual, we really appreciate having you along for these sessions. Ashley's pasted one of the questions that one of you sent through before the session. We know you need a lot to be ready for AI, but Tony, is there one super important aspect to start with when getting your organization ready? Can you highlight one thing in particular?
Yeah, have your data ready. I think that you cannot skip your hygiene factors. So if you're thinking about getting ready, think about having your data. Think about how systems can gain access to your data, clean your data if you need to, but those housekeeping activities still need to exist.
Brilliant. And then quickly, and just to re-emphasize, part of what PPT does is a lot of workshops, because they don't know what AI can do for your business. Only you know what you can do for your business. So one of the questions is there an aspect of the workshops that can be customized, or are they general workshops?
So none of our workshops are the same. We meet our clients where they are. So, we've got clients at very different journey, parts of their journey. And, we've also got different audience members. So, some of our workshops will happen with a credit team. Others will happen with a core technology or software development team. So none of our workshops are the same. And then, they're also not single threaded. We will take cues from different people inside the workshop, and really the outcome we're looking for are applicable business cases or applicable use cases at the end that everybody buys into. The importance being that we also can't own use cases for our clients. That removes agency. What we can do is facilitate in a structured way the emergence of these use cases.
Brilliant, thank you. I think we're out of time, and as usual, we do want to be cognizant of everyone's time. So I'm going to tie it up now. Thank you for joining us on another one of these sessions. We really appreciate it. We hope to speak to you and engage with you out there in the real world, but for now, we hope you enjoy these. And like I said, if you've got any ideas for future sessions, please send them through. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. That was illuminating, and thanks to all of our guests today.
Thank you, Colin and team.
Have a good day, everyone.
Everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. This one. I think so. Thanks, Colin, for the opportunity. It was really an absolute pleasure speaking to you and your team and your clients.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I think. Is everyone out?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that was great, Tony. Thank you. And it is really bloody difficult to stick on time, and we actually did a great job. You did a great job there. So thank you.